Shadow Corner fam? It's your friendly neighborhood life coach, Cyan Gates. I am enjoying this April showers in the South, and I hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. We're going to continue our series of mind, body, and spirit. I'm going to have a lot more guests for you. So we're going to dive into the health aspect with our guest that talked about Hashimoto's. Now we're going to talk about the medical system itself. As you know, I am studying to be a holistic practitioner. I am also in the process of getting my degree in alternative medicine, as well as I already work in the medical field. So as a phlebotomist, I was certified as a medical assistant since 2017. So when it comes to health and advocating for the patient, I am a firm believer that both any and everybody deserves an opportunity to be heard. So I'm bringing to you a guest that has not only done that, but he's also has made his life as a transformative coach. So in this episode, we're going to be joined by Mr. Christian, a transformative coach who has dedicated his life to guiding those who've been let down by both traditional medical system and the noise of alternative wellness culture. With over 20,000 hours of one-on-one coaching experience, Christian has a gift for cutting through the confusion and offering practical, simple, and powerful tools for healing. If you're feeling burnt out or overlooked or overwhelmed on your wellness journey, this conversation is yours. So we're going to talk about the real reason people stick to the healing journey, what actually works and what doesn't work. It's basically an overall conversation on health in general. So please help me welcome Christian. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on your show.
We're glad to have you. So can you give us a little bit about yourself, your profession? What do you call yourselves? Are you a guru? Are you just a transformative coach? Like, give us the lowdown of who you are.
Oh man, yeah, I get called all sorts of things. Some flattering, some not. But yeah, my background is, I guess the easiest way to say it is a health coach, but that often needs a little more explanation. So holistic health coach gets a little closer. But my journey is I started, like probably a lot of people in the health, just getting into it to try to get my own health in order. I wasn't well in my late 20s. I'm thinking, geez, where is this going by the time I'm 50? So I had enough foresight to say, I've got to get in front of this. Like kind of a degenerative shoulder condition. I had a chronically weak immune system. And short version, I turned that around in about 2 years and became more or less a pillar of health. I learned a ton because I had good teachers. And so that sent me on a quest to say, how many other things like this do I not know about that could be simple and dramatic and a healing potential? So I became a nutritionist, became a personal trainer, opened 4 different brick and mortar locations, grew up to 10,000 square feet. And you had chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, personal trainers, nutritionists. There's a lot of different disciplines in one place. And that became really what set the compass heading of what I ended up doing. So in 2017, we closed that business and moved into a virtual coaching space and really kind of transformed my life coach and working, I didn't really see to get into it. It just kept coming the mental, emotional puzzle of health because it's so important if you can't figure out why someone is unmotivated, if you can't figure out why someone doesn't have confidence, then you're going to have a harder time getting them to perform the habits that help them eat healthy. So we became, really just relationship, life, health coaches all mixed in one. And of a weight, I've ended up partnering with other doctors and coaches just because I've been at it so long. I got quite a network now. And we've really focused our attention on the topic of detoxification in particular because there isn't a better explanation for why we are so sick as a nation or as, Western countries in general. We've grown from 1 out of 10 people had a chronic health condition, and to now it's 6 out of 10. And that's at least one. Some people have multiple chronic health conditions. And so the only reasonable explanation for that, yes, there are blue lights and AMFs and other things, but the biggest problem is we've just slowly poisoned ourselves over the last several decades. And we're living in an environment from food to medicine to personal care products and et cetera, that is just highly toxic. And our bodies are showing the evidence of that. So a lot of what we do is we try to find and triage the mental, emotional, and physical upstream issues that are keeping people from being well. And it's much more fun when you go after root causes because your chance of success is so much higher. So we're really trying to figure out why someone got sick, which is a very different puzzle than how are you sick? How is your body manifesting symptoms? And in what way is it breaking down? We're less interested in that. We're more interested in why is it breaking down? We want to know that. And as soon as we start solving that, it's amazing how many health issues resolve themselves because you've taken away the reason someone got sick in the first place. So anyway, that's the short version of what I've been up to the last 20 years and where we are now.
Okay, so I know you're talking about detoxification. That's something that I actually took the class on. We
Ooh, good
Yes,
for you.
we talked about microbiomes and how they help us in digesting all the good stuff. Even though, like, the only thing they taught you, like in traditional Western medicine, we knew nothing of microbiomes. We heard of them in passing, but we didn't see them in anything in depth, like how in my alternative class. So, as far as I knew, the stomach digests everything with acids. Acids have gastric acids helps you break down food. The end, done. That was literally what we taught, like as a medical assistant. But when it came down to alternative medicine, they're like, okay, so you need to understand that your stomach isn't just one acid. It's a bunch of organisms working together to be able to process all these things. You need antioxidants in order to process that because it also strengthens your immune system. Your immune system is attached to your gut. So you have to, the more ways you treat your gut, the more better that you'll look on the outside rather than just like in the inside. So, can you tell me how, explain to everyone like a microbiome or at least like the process of detoxification? Because I hear smoothies, I hear pills, I like the ones that make you poop all the time, or just like trying to get the worms out from what like I get from like alternative culture. So can you break it down for us to actually
Sure,
is?
I'll do my best. So yeah, I guess we'll start with just the concept of a microbiome. Originally, we thought the human gut was sterile and that germs or bacteria were to be feared and we're trying to keep them out. And we could not have been more off the mark with that assessment of the gut. And so, yes, it's funny to me that the medical world even, I've asked this question to so many doctors and the pharmacists, and how much nutrition education did you get in school? I'm like, none. We didn't talk
Mhm.
about it. Or we had a lecture, and you're like, and there's no better oxymoron maybe in the world of health than a medically supervised diet. Like, you mean the people that don't study nutrition are going to teach me how to eat? Fascinating. But when it comes to, yeah, what you're learning about or what you're realizing is there's acid, but there's enzymes, and then there's bile, and there's other, there's a, the microbiome is such a vast sea of what's very difficult for the scientific modeling we have to study because our scientific method is reductionist. It's trying to reduce to variables. And what you have in the human gut is you have this diverse, hopefully very diverse ecosystem of bacteria and yeast and mold and fungi and parasites and any number of microbes, some invisible and some like worms. I'll get into, I'll kind of put parasites on a side for a second, but you have this diverse ecosystem, and each of those microbes has its role in nature. There's some that they eat our food and poop nutrients, and there's others that eat our food and poop toxins. And there are some that are in nature, their role is to clean up rot and decay, and they eat poop, and they're there to munch up toxicity. And so when we're talking about the microbiome, appreciate that we are outpopulated by these organisms by about 10 to 1. So for every cell that you have in your body, there's about 10 organisms that live in you or on. You have about 2 to 6 pounds, depending on how big a person is, of microbes that are part of you. And it's not just in your gut, it's throughout your entire body and it's all over your skin. So one thing that hopefully you can do as you start to metabolize that is to just remove fear of germs. You can't get away from them, nor do you need to live in fear of them. But what matters is the balance of this ecosystem, the rainforest, if you want to think of it that way. Everything inside you is wet all of the time, unless you're just, weird health condition. You have your water, it should, permeate your whole being. And so these microbes exist in this rainforest, and in a healthy, balanced rainforest, life goes on and dead trees are decomposed and it's a healthy forest. And if you think of our gut that way, we have created over time very unbalanced ecosystem. We've created, because of this toxicity problem that I talked about, we have become more and more burdened by our food, by our medication, by our personal care products, by the exhaust and the pesticides raining down from the air, and on and on. And we've accumulated so much body burden that these microbes that feed on chemicals and rot and filth, they have a lot of food, and the food's inside us. And so they procreate to an extent where we create what the fancy word is dysbiosis. We create an imbalanced ecosystem inside our body that kind of just creates this non-virtuous loop of disease because there's so much rot. Now our tissue's choked out of what it needs. They eat the first fruits of our nutrition. And so it's a problem you get back in front of methodically. So much of our health can come back to our gut. If your gut is not functioning well, you could have pretty much any health problem you can imagine because, as you pointed out, the majority of our immune system is in our gut. Not surprisingly, because that's where the most things come into us. So they're there surveilling, and they're kind of the watchman on a wall, protecting us from things that shouldn't be there. But they easily get overwhelmed with the amount of toxins and, you could say, non-native frequencies and such that we deal with. And so there's many things that disrupt it. And since we can't study, let's say, 40,000 different types of bacteria and how they're all interacting with each other and what they're doing, what we can do is try to mimic nature and say, how does nature balance an ecosystem? And well, sure enough, if you've got toxicity, you're going to have a lot of unbalance. So how do we reduce the toxic burden? And sometimes that means there's curated cleanses you go through to help the body clean itself out. And there's a lot of cleanses that I think of more as a kind of gimmicky, or they're like a shallow detox versus a deep one. And a deeper detox is if somebody's in a lot of weight to lose, either in really poor health, a lot of disease conditions, typically you need more of a deep detox. You're not going to get that with a juice cleanse or a 10-day this, that, goes. Yeah, there's more of a process of healing that needs to go on. And so, anyway, that's a long-winded explanation or answer to your question about the microbiome or part of what it's there to do. But yeah, it's a vast rabbit hole, and we have just crossed the threshold of complete ignorance about it into this vast world of like, how many different things are in here? And what are they doing with each other? Some of them make neurotransmitters, and some of them help us, and some of them are maybe not so helpful. And so there's so much to learn, and if it's laughable to think that reductionism is going to figure that out, and it's going to take a different mindset to even study this thing.
Well, I mean, just commenting on the first part of it, you were saying like you can't get away from germs. I was like, yeah, I think after the first child, you figure that out because you can't keep them off.
Right.
You cannot keep them off the floor. You can't keep them from putting their hands on the glass when you take them out. So it's like I do that with my god kids. I'm like, just go nuts because like I'd rather you not be sick. And then it's like if you do get sick, at least you'll have like the antibodies not to deal with again. And if you do deal with it, it's not going to be like as severe. Similar to like with the COVID epidemic, where they give us like the shot and they say, "Hey, you're immune from getting COVID," and I'm like, "Yeah, see, that does not mean that. This means you have a more heightened immune system of what it is, and that way you can fight it off better than sitting here and having the worst of it, and then you can't move and you can't do anything." So, so my next question is like, what are some of the biggest myths today in wellness pop culture that you wish people knew? Like, some things like, because again, I see like pills and all these weight loss things and all that stuff, and I'm like, honestly, the only thing you need to do is just check out like what's in your cupboard, check out what's going on like when you eat, and just try to get your what's called a body index. It basically scans exactly you as a person to see what you eat in a day and how that contributes to your body as a whole, and then it helps you plug in where you're lacking. So do
Yeah.
you have any like insights on this type of stuff? Like,
Yeah, well, sure, I've got thoughts on so many things. So you keep asking and I'll keep talking. But yeah, one of the bigger, I guess, myths or common things I see in the health space is this idea of this. I call it the silver bullet fallacy. This idea that there's this one thing I haven't found yet, and if I just try that one next thing, finally, I'll get the health I want. And I mean, I've been through so many diet fads, or the latest kale was a darling for a while, and everything was vegan for a while, and it's juicing, and when it's, I mean, I could go back through some of the diets that would date me a little bit, but the point being, there isn't one thing that's related to your health. There are a lot of small things that are so basic. It's your water, it's your sleep, it's your nutrition, it's your movement, it's your
so
hope.
what does water make a difference? Like, do you have to drink Dasani over Voss? Do you have to drink tap over all these other waters.
Great. Okay. Yeah, we can certainly have a nuanced water conversation if you want. So, yes, water is there is it's fundamental for life. Like nothing exists without like the reason we start building cities near rivers. We have to have water, and you can't grow food without it. And sure enough, animals will prefer it too. So, water is critical. And then it's a matter of okay, what kind of water are you talking about? It used to be less polluted. You could say until industry happened, and obviously one example. There's thousands of others, but pesticides are more specifically Roundup and glyphosate, the active ingredient, so-called active in Roundup, is probably one of the most egregious things ever done to the earth and to the tune of billions of pounds of this sprayed on the soil every year, which unfortunately is water soluble, which means when the rain hits it, it washes it into the water table, into the rivers, and into the oceans. It evaporates and it goes in the sky and falls down, of course. So there isn't water you can find anywhere in the world that's fresh water that is not polluted in some way. And so when it comes to water, one of the things you want is filtered water. You want something you could have reverse osmosis or distilled, but if you have those, you want to remineralize it so it's closer to how nature would do it because you can't absorb water without minerals in it. But when it comes to bottled water, that's what most of the time. If you can avoid plastic, that's where you want to go. You could dramatically reduce your plastic intake just by giving up plastic water bottles. That would include refillable ones. So if you can get rid of plastic water bottles, you could cut your plastic intake significantly, which is a major endocrine disruptor. So just that one by itself, we haven't even got into alkalinization of water or structured water. There's more we could talk about. But yeah, that is one significant source of toxins, unfortunately, is plastic. Supposedly the average person eats at least a credit card worth of plastic every year. Some people would say as often as every month.
Wow.
We naturally comes into us. And so one of the biggest sources of it is bottled water. So yes, water is critically
So even
important.
if you reuse
And
the water bottle, like say for example, like Starbucks water bottles, or like just regular water bottles, like from the grocery store, that in itself is toxic.
yeah, unfortunately, you want glass for
Basic.
most of your water. Yeah. So but you can get glass water bottles that have all sorts of, padding around them. You're less likely to break them. And we have, for our home, we don't drink out of plastic. And I've got kids and we break a lot of glasses because they're kids. But uh, I'm not gonna give them plastics, and that's just one of many. As I mentioned, glyphosate and plastics. We got two major sources of toxins that are glyphosate is gut rot. You literally it obliterates the junctions between our cells in our intestines, and so it creates this sieve of this leak into the rest of our body. What should stay contained in the tube is porous now, and it leaks wherever chemicals or food particles are in the food can leak into our blood. And that's just with a couple of the toxins. Plastics can be major endocrine disruptors, and which endocrine means hormones. If your energy, your mood, your focus, your sleep, sex drive, all of that is related to endocrine system. And if you're disrupting it with chemicals, plastics or pesticides, and these two examples, yes, you're going to have more problems. So there's a checklist of returning to the basics, of returning to a lot of ancestral wisdom that goes a long way to rebuilding health. And sometimes we overcomplicate it and think that there's a silver bullet out there. I just need this wall. I got to find this one specialist with the one hammer that hits this nail just perfectly, and then all of my health will return. And an unfortunate business reality is that riches are found in niches. If you specialize, the more you talk about one tiny problem of the complicated human frame, the more people are like, oh, I got toe fungus. Oh, I've got Graves' disease. Oh, I've got type 2 diabetes. Then you get the impression that there's a special answer for that one thing, and so that niche creates a specialty, but that niche doesn't build health often. That niche is just the waypoint into maybe this person knows something about how to build health, or maybe they're just good at marketing and they can make a lot of money talking about one thing. And so we're more master generalists. I think generalist as juxtaposed against partialist is a more accurate frame. Specialists are actually just partialists. They look at a part of the problem instead of the whole problem. And that's a more comprehensive way to approach health, but it's often difficult to communicate because people just watch what's in the blood. What do I smell? There's got to be a protein powder that fixes this. There's got to be an herb on the Amazon. Somebody made into a pill, and all I need to do is take that.
Okay. So you talk about like elegantly simple habits and modalities. Can you give us some few examples of what that looks like on a daily basis. Because, like I said, right now, if we're comparing alternative to medical is I'll give you this pill. This pill will help just about everything, but like you have to do a diet and exercise and all this other stuff compared to like if you just do it anyway, and just change up the foods that you eat as well as like the environmental factors like social environmental that has an effect on your health as well as environmental being in a place that's very toxic and pollution as well as like air pollution because I had a friend that made a very good point. He was like there's a difference between South Carolina air and New York air. New York air, at least you know it's clean. Like
Sure.
South Carolina air, it's clean, but it's like in spats. It's I guess wherever the most trees, that's where you get the most oxygen. I don't understand it. So can you give us a few examples of what that looks like on a daily basis, or
Sure. Yeah. Part of my challenge over the last 20 years has been to say, how do I simplify honestly a complex problem and not oversell the simple answers, but not under communicate that there's more to it than you just need to restrict your calories. You need to do this one modality, and then all your dreams will come true. That success rate on that is so low. And what you see in marketing are just the outlier stories of a person who was just at a tipping point. They have few things going for them, and this one thing nudged them over the edge, and they're like, finally, my health. You get the outlier. When it comes to building health, what we've simplified it down to, it's really a three-step process. There's unburden the body. There are sources of input of burden. So that could be mental, emotional, that could be volitional, that could be chemical, microbial. But we just triage that. We figure out what is this person's biggest source of body burden. And we work to eliminate as much of that as we can. Sometimes it starts with, my wife just did a webinar on detox your beauty. Sometimes it's cleaning out your dental products. Sometimes it's any number of things. But as your eyes are open to, oh, my body's bogged down by burden. Yes. And so sometimes that's turning off your social media feed and the news because it's making you anxious all the time. So once you start eliminating sources of burdens, the first step, the next one is purification. And that's really our sweet spot because we are really good at that. That is taking the lifetime of accumulation of toxins that someone has. If you have a disease condition or you're overweight, I promise you don't take with what it is. So what we can do is teach your body or give you the tools to help purify the body of the toxins that aren't already in you. And then the third step is nourish, right? So like a clean, but so let's say dilapidated house, still not livable. If you clean out the toxins in your body, but you don't nourish it, if you're going to have a hard time healing. So that there's fantastic purification agents, but they do nothing to nourish you. So if you can approach health with that simple framework, take away the source of burden, purify what's already in there, essentially rebalance the microbiome we talked about, and bring in the nourishment that is what builds your cells. It's what gives life. Your body eats food, it eats light, it eats oats, it eats movement, it eats water. It's not a very complicated long list. But once you get your head around this is what nourishes the body deeply, sure enough, it's relatively easy to get someone well when you have a high-level framework that lets you assess body burden. You have a way to say, these are the things we purify from your body. Only the body knows where all of them are anyway, so let's just give it what it needs to purify all of that. And then let's just take some time. It's the nourishing or the healing part is typically the longer of the three processes because you're looking at, okay, you can't heal a broken bone in 2 weeks, right? It takes a little bit longer. An ACL tear or repairing nerve damage. But it just takes a while for the body to go through the process of repairing that. And so there's a consistency factor of nourishing your body over time. The shocking stories we get out of people that had been abandoned or about to have a major surgery and the medical system just can't help them. Like, we'll take you on. Sure. Our formula is pretty simple. It's those three things. As long as you're willing to take ownership, I can't force feed you something. I can't make you practice your health habits. Go to bed on time. I can show you the path. Once somebody's ready to take ownership of it, it's really simple, that framework. Don't confuse simple with easy, but it is simple to go through a process like that. And once you get your expectations right, you get your head in a good space, it's free, it's liberating, hope just continues to fill you because this is working and you throw perfect out the window. That's another blind spot people have, this all or nothing thinking. I'm going to do it perfectly or I'm not going to do it at all. Please tell me what in life you can do perfectly, because there's no such thing. So your only progress is going to be imperfectly, but lean into that and it softens the battlefield. It's much easier to go in and work at lifestyle change over time. So anyway, that's a high level frame, and I can get more into the specifics of each of those three categories if it would be helpful. But that's the frame we bring to the process of healing that seems to produce a whole lot of fruit.
Okay, so do you think that all right, this is the big question that I had a professor ask all of us in a discussion post. So he was talking about the difference between conventional medicine and alternative medicine, and whether or not they could either coexist, or whether or not that they could be worked separately or not. Now, when I did my version of it, I said that both are needed, but and both can coexist, but understanding like you have to give alternative some conventional integrated medicine some room, because it seems as if like the only thing that we have right now is mainstream media of Western medicine that says that you take this pill and then that's it. You go and you go to your appointments and that's it. So I was like, if we're talking about advocating for the patient, and if we're talking about advocating for health as a whole, then they can coexist with each other. But integrated medicine has to have some room. Alternative medicine has to have some room in the conventional medical space. Because right now, in the words of a lot of people, and there's some that still look at alternative medicine is like you're a bunch of quacks. And that's actually in a book. The alternative medicine practitioners and all that stuff, they were considered quacks, and even today they consider them as quacks. And I was like, how is this possible when these are the same people that gave you alkaline based diets and then alkaline based water and all this other stuff, and they're telling you that you can listen to your doctor on like what you need to do, but we're in partnered with your doctor to do this, because like we may give you the tools, but we only can give you but so far unless you do the work. And you're right, I can lead you to water, but you got to be able to drink it and be able to apply it. So do you think, like from your personal opinion, that alternative medicine and Western medicine can have a lovely relationship, or like there, because I know detoxification is very important, but that's not the first thing that was taught to us, like in medical, like when I first started in medical. So,
On top of the
hmm?
yeah, no, I have strong opinions on them, but they're kindly delivered. So, my perspective on Western medicine, or what we call conventional, is it's time for that form of medicine to give up the word conventional, and they can start competing in the marketplace based on the merits of what they offer. And I think the best thing so-called conventional medicine offers is trauma and emergency care. You think you tear your ACL, you get hit by a bus, please take me to a Western medicine doctor. That's where I want to go, because they're good at saving lives and repairing torn ligaments and things of that nature. That's where they shine. I think outside that, if they have to compete on the merits, they're going to lose badly. And my vision of a health landscape is there is no conventional. It's not just Western medicine gets up. It's nobody gets to claim it. It is a free market of many different disciplines that have merit, and they can bring a different aspect of healing to the human frame. But what we call Western or conventional or allopathic medicine has going for it isn't necessarily the things that made it great. It's the marketing monopoly. It is drug advertising. It is liability-free products. It is licensure that puts doctors in a pen so they can be corralled into behaving a particular way, or they can have their license taken away. They have to practice what is standard of care. And so they don't get to practice much. They just get to mostly follow orders, and with some leeway, they can prescribe this medication over this one. If it's off label, maybe I can do that. I think most of that is backwards. The whole medical system, it sounds hyperbolic or hard to believe if this is the first time you've heard this, but the whole system is built on three things: cut, burn, and poison. The medications they create are poisons. They're potions, they're tinctures. They all have an LD50 rating, that they're known toxins, and there's a reason You take too much of it, it will kill you. And they have interactions where they know you can't take these two together. The word pharmaceutical comes from the word pharmakia, which literally means witchcraft or sorcery. That's the genesis of that word. And that's somebody's like, yeah, that's a good, let's use that. We're going to use potions to make people well. And it's a chemical poison. It's an intervention that accelerates, suppresses, or replace, essentially overrides a normal bodily function through the hubristic lens that says we're smarter than the body. We know what it should be doing, and we're going to force it to behave differently rather than saying we are stewards of a body that knows how to heal itself. And we're going to try to get out of the way and take away burden and give it as many scenarios as it needs to heal. Western medicine doesn't do that. It intervenes with treatments and says we're going to force the body into this because it's too stupid to fight its own battles. And I think that's just gotten us so far off course that the other one's cut. If the body's not working well, we can cut parts of your body out, or we can cut things out of your body, rather than say, how would the body heal that? How would the body repair a gallbladder? How would the body repair an appendix? How would the body repair a colon that's got IBS or Crohn's? Like, how would the body fix that? Isn't method. It's cut out parts, and poison or burn is radiation. We can radiate you and hope that we kill enough of the part of you that we don't want to be there, and the part of you that we want to keep is strong enough to survive that. So that's the model, and I'm not meaning to throw all doctors under the bus. I'm just saying we can question the system and the thinking that was put into it. And we can rewind back to the 1910 Flexman report if we want and talk about more or less the birth of this as an institutionalized model for healthcare. But in my mind, conventional needs to give up the title, and we'll let homeopaths, the chiropractor, and acupuncturists, and naturopaths, and everybody continue on a level playing field where drug advertising isn't part of every commercial break on every mainstream channel and in every magazine and on every radio broadcast, and all the news segments are brought to you by Pfizer. Like, we're in a culture where we've just been trained to think symptom, doctor, symptom, medical, symptom, pill, symptom, surgery. And we haven't been able to think healing because we've been under that trance of experts and testing and science and follow the science. And it became a mantra and in some ways a religion. And so your friend or whoever said that alternative is a quack, I would love to have a conversation.
No,
with
it was
find out
it was in a book.
where,
It was in our alternative medicine book when we were talking about like the different there are different known practitioners, like somebody I follow, Deepak Chopra. He was the head doctor to some organization. I can't remember off the top of my head. I look at him highly because of the fact that he helped me with mindfulness. And he also helped me with being able to tell when my blood pressure went up, because I have a family history of high blood pressure, and we also have a family history of diabetes. And then there's like some I think one of my cousins is allergic to Neosporin. And then another is allergic to peppers, oranges, or something. So it's like we have all these weird conditions. So it's like we have to be able to.
I would want you to figure out why you have this. What Western medicine is going to do is just like, well, let's read the symptom. Let's just don't eat that. Like, well, maybe we can figure out why you're so sensitive to some of these things. And that's often not a way that the system thinks. And anyway, I'll listen.
No, you're fine, because like I thought about that, because I was like, okay, so why is the average person dealing with hypertension, or why are they dealing with this? The only thing they tell us is like some people dealing with hypertension because due to diet, stressful life environment. Sometimes it could be the result of quote unquote ancestral DNA transfer. Like if your parent had it, if one of your parents had it or both of your parents had it, then there's a higher chance that you have it. They think of it as like a genetical type of thing. So when I look at it, I think of it as like I have to think about the average American diet consumes of burgers, fries, processed foods, sometimes even food that is considered organic, but it ends up not being organic because it also has fillers something like potato starch or MSG or like all these other things that you didn't think that could actually go in food. Like one person I found this like on TikTok, they did some research on syrup and somebody found out that there was like blueberries in regular maple syrup. Why is that in there? Why is it? It is different, and I was like, I guess they said it's to preserve something, but I was like, but if you're preserving, you're also using another chemical, and you're also using all these other things that either you don't know the name of, you don't know the side effects of. So in this case, I think we're at a point in medicine where it's like we're trying to find the ends to justify the means, and if you can blame somebody for something, that's the that's the quickest way to get your hands free. And then we're also at a point where when someone is so desperate that they want to change, they look for just about anything. So they go down the rabbit hole of alternative medicine and they think that just if they drink arrowroot powder for like a week, then automatically their blood sugar goes down. No, there's
Right.
more to it than
Yeah,
that.
there's definitely. Yeah, well, and one thing I'll say that I want to, I guess, be clear about is there can be a quack in any of those types of disciplines. There can be a quack in there's plenty of quacks in the medical world who are just drug peddlers that nauseate me. And there are plenty of great ones. But there's quacks in chiropractic and homeopathy and naturopathy. There's people that are just woo woo and weird and don't really have much to lend. They're just kind of crazy. And it's okay to have discernment or to say, yeah, maybe that's not for me. But there is, it, it's not like the human condition skipped anything medical. No, it still wove itself into that as well. And then when we can appreciate that whatever discipline we're talking about humans. So there's going to be a flaw involved in it. And then we can evaluate the merits of the method and the logic behind the system or the intervention, the modality, a little more objectively and say, well, does this actually make sense? I can't make sense of cut, burn, poison as the method of healing. No, that's not healing. That's unless I tore a ligament or have a bone sticking out of my leg because I got hit by a car. I don't need that way of dealing with my health. I really personally don't have much use for medical doctors unless I'm in one of those two scenarios. Otherwise, I'm not afraid of. There's no infection I'm scared of. I can put any infection you can throw at me in check
Okay.
because I know how to deploy
Okay,
tools.
so what's one shift or mindset change that tends to create the biggest breakthrough for the people that you work with? Like when you start talking about what simple cut and dry that they need to do, whether they do it or not. What sets that apart? Like what is something that sets you apart from others that you
Yeah, limit me to one. No, it's terrible. Okay.
what?
Yeah, I have so many, but I'll start
Oh,
with
just
one.
narrow
So
it
the
down to
first one is
three. How about that?
okay. We'll go. First one is extreme ownership. Let's call it that. It's no one's coming to save you. You are the only one who can eat your food and drink the water and practice your health habits. And you are going to have to learn. You're going to have to develop this thing called intuition. You're going to have to test and try things. And maybe that means you overdo it once in a while and you're really sore for a couple of days, or you have a Herxheimer, a cleansing response where you would feel a little worse on the way to feeling better. Maybe you burn the chicken because you're learning to cook. Who knows? It's not going to be perfect, but take ownership because no one's coming to save you would be a big one. Another one is this appreciation that healing takes time. And I'll put both of these on the table so I can mention them. There's the reality that healing takes time, and there's the reality that your body is fantastically intelligent, but it has its own undisclosed priority list of what it's going to heal in what order. And so if some people, their only goal when it comes to health is weight loss. And we like to say weight loss is a side effect of getting healthy. And so if you can appreciate, let's just use the example of weight loss for a second. If you can appreciate that your body is, your fat cells in particular, are not going to give up the contents of the fat cells that are toxic if they know it can't make it to the exit, or if that system, the purging systems are so bogged down, you won't be able to offload that. It would be dangerous for the fat to give up its contents. Fat cells can't lose the weight. And so unless your purging systems are activated, the body can't do that work. So if we can approach that from the ownership, healing is going to take some time, and my body's going to go to work on what it perceives to be the most important thing for it to deal with when it has the freedom to attack this problem. That might be cleaning up your gut health and your microbiome, like we talked about. That might be putting you to sleep and making you really tired. That could be resensitizing your hormones, or any number of things that are going to take a precedent over what you might prefer to see heal. And so if you can trust that the body knows how to heal, and our job is simply to be the steward of that vessel and get out of its way, empower it to do so patiently, and to not quit on it. So another fallacy I see people have is I call it the up and to the right fallacy. This idea that I'm going to start here, and it's going to be a straight line of progress, and every day is going to be a little bit better, and eventually there's not going to be one setback. There's not going to be any peaks and valleys. It's all just going to be a steady climb of slow weight loss or improved health, and I'm not going to have any sort of flat tire in life or headache from cleansing something or gut dysbiosis, and I just removed another layer of sediment, and now more stuff is stirred up. That's part of a real healing journey. And once you've kind of metabolized, this is going to have like a climb and a plateau, yeah, and then you climb again and plateau, and you might even have a setback of something you didn't see coming that no one could have predicted. That doesn't mean you're off course. It just means, no, this is the part you had to go through to learn the lesson to get to the next climb. And your body can make another climb, and it will work at the next problem that it sees, and the next one, and the next one. And wait, maybe 3, 4, 5 items down the list, but eventually that starts falling off. The fun stories are the ones where weight just melts, because the body, we just change what they eat. We go put them through a cleanse, and it just falls off. Other people, it takes longer because there's so much cleanup to do, so many years of buildup where they're still poisoning themselves with their lifestyle. They don't know what they're doing. We have to find those things. So hopefully those mindsets can just sturdy someone up for a real healing journey, because it is a journey that doesn't have to take forever. Some of our Whopper stories are short amounts of time. But once it clicks that that's the healing process, you can heal just about anything.
Okay. So for someone listening who's feeling stuck or exhausted in their healing journey, what's one practical thing that they can do to start? Like, how can people start discerning what's right for them in the world full of shoulds when it comes to health and wellness? How can they tell the difference between who's just feeding you garbage and then another person is just feeding you truth, and they're just very sincere about working? If I was a person coming to you saying, hey, I really need to know what's the BS and what's not, what would you what's some practical things you can get them to start today?
Okay, great question. Yeah, I'll answer the question of how do we do this first. The short version is we have what we call a body burden audit, and we have a habits audit. Those are two big things that help us know, where is this person likely letting their health slip away in the health now? Where's the source of the body burden? And then we audit their habits. Understanding what a day in the life of looks like helps us find the flashing red lights of man, if we change 1 or 2 habits here, you could have a significant change in your overall health. So I'll just go with some of the basics then. So obviously, if you're not drinking water, start there. We've got to have good quality water, and enough of it. Nothing leaves your body without the medium of water. Everything exits contained in water. Your breath is water. Everything that your sweat, your orifices, everything leaks water. So you need water in order to get stuff out. So that has to be part of it. And the better the water, the faster you're going to heal. Another big one is vegetable oils. If you don't know about vegetable oils, better known as seed oils. So those are your canola, grapeseed, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, corn oil, etc. Those oils are poison. They're one of the worst things you could possibly consume, and they're worse for you than sugar. And basically, if you go down the middle aisles of the grocery store, almost everything has seed oils in it. And so it's an easy change in philosophy is to eat around the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where you're going to find your produce. That's where you're going to find the fresh meats. That's where you're going to find your own broth if they have it. That's where you're going to find the dairy and the eggs and live living foods, hopefully, that are much more packed with more nutrition per bite. And they're not poisoning you full of preservatives and food coloring chemicals and MSG like you talked about, or vegetable oils. Most of that stuff's in the middle of the grocery store. So if you just improved your water, cut out seed oils. If I could give you a third one, it would be if you're going to spend more on food anywhere, make it your meats. Anything in the animal product realm, there's so much nutrition packed into animal foods, and but they're not all created equal. So start going organic. That's a better step. If you can go pasture raised or biodynamic,
Grass
and there's
fed.
different grass fed, right? That if you can get grass finished and you can find a local farmer and you can verify how they grow their food and they're not spraying or raison or pesticides or whatever, and you can find animal foods can be so healing. So many people did really well on a carnivore diet, and I wouldn't say that's the way to eat into perpetuity, but it is a way that can produce a lot of healing if you have good farmed animal foods. And so that doesn't have to break the bank. You give up your latte and you give up your Netflix or something just to eat. It's not usually that we don't have the money; it's that we choose not to spend it on those things. So if you can adjust your budget a little bit just on the animal foods, and yeah, you might have a little sticker shock the first time, but okay, you're worth it. Like, where else are you going to get your health if it's not from the food? So those would be three super practical things that you can do. And as you start changing that, you're going to notice a difference in your health.
Okay, so what's one message or reminder you'd love to leave with anyone who's feeling lost or unseen on their journey of healing or their journey dealing with the health system that we have right now? Because, like I said, as a medical assistant and a phlebotomist, I see a lot of things where it's like sometimes nurses overlook some things because they're exhausted and tired. There are some doctors that probably think that a patient's complaining rather than like giving them legitimate what they need. What's a message or a reminder that you'd love to leave with someone going through that journey right now?
I guess I applaud your work too, because the short version of or short answer to your question is become your own advocate, because the system typically does not advocate for you. It's unfortunate, but that means sometimes you have to, it feels like disobey your doctor. You have the nerve to ask a question about what are the long-term implications of this medication, or what's in that vial you want to inject in my arm, and is there any way to know if my body might have an adverse reaction to that? And the system typically, conventionals had the aura of authority and prestige for so long that well, doctors just typically aren't used to being questioned or having some of their pronouncements uh, not come across as just obvious thing to do. And so sometimes that means you just have to know enough to ask a simple question like that. And sometimes it means you find an advocate, somebody like you. So what I do often for people and help them know the questions, help them frame how does the body work and why would I intervene that way? Is maybe this isn't. Could this have anything to do with diet? Could this have anything to do with lifestyle? Could this have anything to do with toxicity or parasites? And you typically, I don't know if you could offend anyone with a sincere question. And so it's the asking of questions that help you learn, you know what? I think I can fire this doctor. I think I can find someone else who might be able to actually collaborate with me, respect my intuition, hear my story, and put their heads together with me on how to do that. And this is what we do all day. I get to work with doctors and clients and figure out the puzzle of that person. That's just not common. And so, yeah, unfortunately, most of us have to be our own advocates. But if you can find somebody who will take that mantle, and that can be a family member or friend, somebody you would take with you to that, has a reasonable reasoning skills and is not intimidated by somebody because they have stethoscope around their neck. That can be maybe that I can get more pointed if you want to focus the question a bit more, but that's my current answer.
Okay. And the final question I ask everyone on my show, because again, we are transparent here and we do go deep when in this profession, there was a reason for you to be able to walk in the profession authentically. So my question is, if you could say or give advice to the younger version of you or the 20, 30, 10, 16, whatever age, no matter what the time is, what advice would you give them um, to move forward?
it professionally or
Either or.
in your
It does
particular
not matter.
life?
You can do both. We literally have time for both.
Okay, well, thank you for the options to do both. I'd say professionally, brace for impact. Like it's difficult when you stand against status quo, when you have the nerve to question things and not let lingering questions fade away because nobody likes to answer or entertain that question. So there's a level at which it will stir you up to face challenging paradigms and challenging systems. And if you can maintain your humility and your curiosity as you do it, it's much easier to arrive at truth faster and really weed out who can be helpful and to keep. So, yeah, buckle your chin strap, brace for impact, stay humble, stay curious. And really, I think that applies to life just as well as profession. I mean, there's it's hard to go through life thinking you know everything or expecting to always be right because life will humble you pretty quickly. So I'd say stay humble and stay curious is a great mantra for life. And you're going to have more friends that way. You're going to be less judgmental that way. You're going to ask more questions instead of make more assumptions. And we're going to learn a lot faster by doing those two things. So,
Okay. Thank you so much for giving us this knowledge, the know-how, your time, your wisdom, all of the above for this episode. I really appreciate it.
well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. And don't worry, this will not be the last time you hear about Christian. Can you tell people where they can follow you, where they can find you? I'll put it in the show notes, but uh, give
Sure.
a gist of like where they can follow you and find you.
Yeah, no, if you like the work we do or you want to learn more, you can go to healingunited.today instead of .com. We wanted some urgency in our URL, so it's healingunited.today. Some people have a hard time finding that site. I think some of it's being a little suppressed, so I should put a link to it. We cloned a non-branded version of the site. I'll put that in the chat for you. But yeah, healingunited.today. You can find my podcast there at that site. The podcast is called Deconstructing Conventional. You find that pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are also at True Whole Human on Instagram. My wife runs that for us. I'm on LinkedIn, or you could email me, Christian at truewholehumane.com. That's pretty much it. That's where we find ourselves in the digital wing. So yeah, we love the work we do, and if anything I said resonated, I've got a free mini series on the Healing United site on why we don't heal like we used to, and you probably will learn some cool things and find it like, oh my gosh, how did I not see that? That's so much simpler. So we help
Those
people
lovely aha
heal when
moments.
right, when you just think you can't, and then you realize, oh, thought I tried everything. I haven't. That's the that's the thing I never heard of, and gosh, that sounds like the most sense I've ever heard in a long time. So check that mini series out. It's free. It's 7 videos, and it'll teach you a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Christian, for being a part of this episode, and we will see you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, Shadow Corner family, as you can see, our part 2 on the body of Mind, Body, Spirit series is very intensified. We already talked about like the things you can do if you were to have Hashimoto's with Chris Toto and what you can do to actually enhance your health and look at what you're consuming, look at what you're eating. And then with Christian, we dive deep into the medical field in general versus alternative medicine and how things have changed, how things have transpired, as well as how things have become different. So if anybody wants to get in contact with Christian, and I'm going to put all his social media as well as his LinkedIn in the box below. Also, on my final notes of this episode is as someone that is on the road to be a holistic practitioner, and I do mean holistic, and that means somebody that is looking at life as a whole. Everything contributes to your health, whether it be environmental, where you have to sit here and think about the people you hang around, the job that you are cooperating your time, or even the even the mini stressors that you have in your life, whatever those are, you have to dissect those things and work them out. Do problem solving skills, do what you have to do to give yourself some balance and peace. When we talk about social, we're talking about the people that you hang around. We're talking about the different communities that you coerce with or coincide with. These things take a whole take a whole chance in developing who you are as well as your habits. And then as in a healthy sense, knowing what you put in your body is what you get out of. You are what you eat. So you have to think about like what are you consuming that's allowing you to either get sick or allowing you to, sorry, my mind just went blank. What is allowing you to feel the way you feel, and being able to take the opportunity to be your best advocate in doing what you have to do. I'm a firm believer that fruits, vegetables, and all the above will help, but the main key is that you have to be the one that's the gung ho for your health. No one's going to save you. That's just like Christian said. You have to be the person to want to make that change. And if you're still at a point where you're learning how to make that change, then that's fine as well. Because everything starts with a single step, and you're not going to be able to do everything first, fast, or even right away. Because this is, especially if it's like habits that you've had for like long time, like years, it's going to take a while to start chipping at that mountain. But once you get to the middle, the core root of it, the root of it, you yourself will understand exactly where this came from and how to prevent it from being the forefront of your life ever again. But as always, we are still in the mind, body, spirit series, and we're also going to be bringing on other guests. We're going to have the spiritual section in a couple of weeks, so I want you to stay tuned and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and just make sure that you are taking care of you. You are your best advocate, and then most importantly, that you know that we care about you over here in Shadow Corner. So we'll see you next time.